Welcome to an allotment where the tools have lives of their own. This might seem like a typical allotment on a summer's day. Marrows growing, potatoes being harvested, butterfly feeding on the runner bean flowers. The only hint that something is not quite normal is what appears to be a tiny stall selling DIY supplies nestled amongst the chard plants. You might have seen something like this yourself, out of the corner of your eye, and dismissed it as an idle daydream about the state of the British High Street. You know the type of idle daydream I mean. You might have even had one about retail outlets yourself. But come with me to see that sometimes strange daydreams about the retail sector can actually come true in the Tools Life Zone. The wise old ruler had called an emergency meeting of the allotment tools. He addressed them in a grave tone. The humans are having something they like to call a cost of living crisis, and old Mr. Nooney, our plot holder, is not immune to this state of affairs. I overheard him say he was something called brassic, and he was having to choose between heating and eating and bingo. He was also casting doubt on whether he'd be able to afford to keep the allotment going, what with the price of new seeds and what not. There were audible gasps from the tools. "Oh no," said Imbu. "If someone else takes over the plot, they might throw all of us onto a skip. We must find a way to get money for the seeds and the what not." "My thoughts exactly, Imbu. Now there is a plant and seed sale at the local village hall coming up very shortly. We need to find some money to go and buy supplies for Mr. Nooney." Notty, the little ball of string, stepped forward. "Well, we should start by searching through the shed. Mr. Nooney is very forgetful, so there is bound to be some money laying around." The tools spent hours searching, but had no luck. When they reconvened their meeting, Reese the Fleece, who was the allotment's entrepreneur and business fleece, addressed the group. "You know, physical money is very old hat these days. Digital cryptocurrency is where it's at. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin and the like." Grumpy Dibber snorted. "When I was a young dibber, a bit of a coin was called a half-p. This all sounds like malarkey." But Reese persisted. "I've read all about it in the Daily Dung newspaper's financial supplement. You know the one, where there's muck, there's brass. There was a fascinating article about the end of physical currency and the rise of the digital wallet. Anyone's at it. Apparently cryptocurrency is all the rage in Silicon Valley." "Where's that?" asked Imbu, looking confused about the whole conversation. Grumpy replied, "I think it's that allotment across the other side of town. You know, the one behind the sewage treatment works. It's squeezed between the car breaker's yard and the rubbish dump. There's a lot of strange tools live there." Reese continued, "Being the entrepreneurial, business and financial fleece that I am, I propose the fastest way to get money is if we create our own cryptocurrency along the lines of Bitcoin or Dogecoin." Grumpy snorted again. "This sounds like Bilgecoin to me." "Actually, that's quite a catchy name, Grumpy. I might put you in charge of branding and marketing." But Grumpy refused to have anything to do with it. Imbu still looked confused. "But where do we get this Bilgecoin from?" "You get digital currency by mining it. Now I'm a proud Welsh fleece from the valleys, which as you know had a rich mining heritage, so I propose we open our own mine right here on the allotment." Everyone looked confused. "Mining it? What kind of twaddle is that?" asked Grumpy incredulously. "It's how cryptocurrency is created. Trust me," said Reese. "I know all about it." And despite the fact that no one seemed to have a clue why they were doing it or what they were doing, opening a mine was exactly what the tools did. Within hours, the operation was underway. "We'll need a blockchain platform to start with." "I don't think we've got any breeze blocks round here," said Imbu. Notty, who liked to think herself as the allotment problem solver, piped up. We need to make a raised platform. There are a couple of old planks of wood behind the shed. We could use bricks instead of blocks, and naturally string instead of chain. Chain is notoriously only as strong as its weakest link, whereas when lengths of string are twined together, it makes an incredibly strong material. Think of those ropes used to tie up huge ocean liners to the docks. Did you know that my great-great-uncle Salty String was one of the twines of string which was used in the rope on the Titanic? Oh, may he rest in peace. There was a respectful silence for a second before thoughts turned back to matters of high finance and the creation of a new allotment-based cryptocurrency. Well done, Naughty. I think you've just invented our own brick string technology. I'll pop down to the patent office behind the water butt later on to get that registered. Now all we need to do is to mine our bilge coins. I can hear words coming out of your fleece, old Reese, but I've no idea what any of them mean, said Grumpy grumpily. You don't need to understand, you just need to dig, replied Reese. The tools all worked incredibly hard, even Flash Dibber, who could be quite a lazy dibber, but the thought of free money was a great motivator for him. You know, we're going to need a way of transporting all the soil away from our mine, he said, digging another spadeful of earth. I've an idea, said Naughty excitedly. We could build a little railway, and I'll enlist the Snug to pull the cart. I can provide his favourite lettuce leaf for him to chase. That will be an excellent source of fuel to keep him running. Oh, said Imbu, a lettuce leaf. So that's what people mean by green fuel. And it wasn't long before they had an efficient bilgecoin mining operation, but it was certainly very tiring work. Stringalong loaded another shovelful of earth onto the cart. What with us opening a new mine and a new railway line, I feel like the Industrial Revolution has finally arrived on the allotment. But remember, Stringalong, this isn't an industrial revolution. Oh no, it's a computing revolution of cryptographic algorithms and hexadecimal numbers, said Reese, stringing fancy-sounding words together to make an incomprehensible sentence. Stringalong sighed. I just didn't realise there'd be so much manual labour involved in whatever you just said. But on they went, mining away under Reese's entrepreneurial gaze. And by the next day they had made a very deep hole. The tools surveyed the site. This is marvellous work, said Reese the Fleece. We'll have made a fortune in bilge coins. How do you know? Asked Imbu tentatively. I don't think I've actually seen a bilge coin yet, unless it looks like brown soil. Oh, you know, you can't see it. But as we've been mining all day, we've got all the proof we need that we've been working on the brick string platform, so I can assure you that we are now rich in bilge coins. Nobody understood a word of what he'd just said, and nobody actually felt very rich. But Imbu and Naughty duly went off to the wise old ruler's house to inform him of their sudden dramatic change in financial fortunes. Bilge coin? He said incredulously. Yes, apparently it's all the rage, and we can use it to buy our seeds and what not from the plant sale at the village hall. I am sorry to burst your bilge coin bubble, Imbu, but I really don't think the village hall committee is equipped to deal with cryptocurrency as payment. As I recall, they were even rather late adopters of decimalisation. I seem to remember they were still accepting sixpences and farthings when selling bunting for the Silver Jubilee. Imbu looked disappointed. No, you are going to have to make money the old-fashioned way. I suggest you start by selling some of the allotment's surplus vegetables and use that money to buy your seeds. It's a tried and trusted method of commerce that has lasted for about 9,000 years. But Imbu wasn't disappointed for long, and he rushed off to start collecting vegetables. He certainly liked to live up to his full name of I Might Be Useful. He picked onions and dug potatoes, and soon he and his friend Stringalong had made a stall next to the shed to sell the produce. and what a lovely array of vegetables they had collected. Afterwards, the tools went and hid in the shed so any passing humans wouldn't see them, and with hours of everything had been sold. They were delighted to see how much money they had made. "It's not as much as we have in bilge coin," said Reese the Fleece rather haughtily, "but I guess it's more of a portable currency if we're going to be buying commodities from such a backwoods trading post as a village hall." The following morning was the day of the plants and seed sale, and Imbu went with Reese to his DIY shop to get some equipment they'd need. "We've got to sneak inside a few hours before the hall is due to open. We can't let any of the humans spot us going to buy our supplies. Plus, I hear the allotment committee has put a 10% tariff on any seeds brought into the allotment from other places, so we don't want them to know where we've got these from." Imbu looked alarmed. "Oh, that sounds a bit like we're becoming smugglers." "I see us more as champions of the free market," said Reese, who was, after all, the allotment's entrepreneur, business and financial fleece, so he was convinced he knew the most about these matters. "What do we need a ladder for?" "Oh, just you wait and see," said Reese, bundling up the supplies. "We're not breaking in, are we? I don't want to be arrested. I pride myself on being very law-abiding. I don't want to be a desperado," said Imbu, sounding alarmed. "I promise you we won't be doing anything against the law, but we will need the ladder." The hall looked empty when they arrived, but Reese sneaked in first to double-check. Then he went to the front door to usher the rest of the tools inside. They'd even enlisted the help of String-Along's relatives, Auntie Gladys and Uncle Clifford Kane. The Snug was pulling a little cart, which they could use to take home all the produce, and they slowly made their way across the hall floor. "How are we going to get up on the table to reach the seeds?" asked Imbu concerned, looking up at the high table. "Ah, now that's what we're here for," said Auntie Gladys Kane. "We're the tallest, and we can put the ladder in place for you to climb up onto the table." "Oh, now I see why we needed a ladder," said Imbu. Thankfully, he enjoyed climbing, and he was soon making his way up the string ladder. "You can do it!" shouted Knotty in encouragement. When he reached the top, he was delighted to see all the packets of seeds and the onion and garlic sets. He carefully lowered down the supplies to his friends waiting below. "Steady with the garlic, String-Along," he called out. When Imbu was done, he put the payment into the money box. Soon the cart was loaded up, and everyone was delighted by how much they had bought. But they couldn't dally, as they could hear voices outside, so they scuttled away as fast as the Snug could pull the cart. "This will definitely help old Mr. Nooney keep the allotment next season. We'll get them back to the shed and put them where he can find them." And so their efforts did indeed help to keep Mr. Nooney on the allotment. So instead of bare ground with nothing growing, the plot was teeming with vegetables the next year. In fact, Mr. Nooney had one of the best seasons, and he didn't even have to buy his own seeds. But he did spend the year wondering why he now seemed to have a mine on his plot. Little did he realise his mine had made him a bilge coin millionaire. So the next time you find yourself wondering if you'll ever understand new developments in the financial world, and worry that you're getting left behind in the transfer from physical pounds, shillings and pence to an unseen digital currency, just remember that all that glistens on the web is not gold, and perhaps you should be converting your cash not into the likes of bilge coins, but into some other material. How about taking inspiration from the title of the Daily Dung's financial supplement, "Where there's muck, there's brass"? And there's plenty of muck waiting for you to find in the Tools Life Zone. The end.